You were never really alone, were you? Even in your darkest nights, when sleep ran from you, when the clock ticked like a threat instead of a rhythm, when your chest ached from sorrow you couldn't explain, there was something else. A whisper, a presence just beyond the noise of your thoughts. Soft, familiar, almost forgotten. Not a voice, not exactly. More like a breath that wasn't yours. A warmth without a source. A knowing without words. You felt it first when you were a child, didn't you? Lying on your back, staring at the sky. In the silence between raindrops. In the pause before your name was called. You didn't know its name, but it knew yours. I am. 2 words, but not words. A vibration, a truth, a home. You've been hearing it your whole life. You just didn't remember how to listen. They taught you to look outside. For answers. For rules. For approval. They gave you names, roles, timelines. And slowly, the whisper got softer. Not because it left, but because your world got louder. School, work, expectations, achievement, image, fear. So you adapted. You conformed. You forgot. You learned to believe in a world made of things, of matter and logic and surface. But now here you are, listening to something you can't quite explain, because part of you is done pretending that what you see is all there is. You want to remember. That's why this found you. This isn't a book. It's a remembering. Not mine. Yours. I'm not here to teach you anything new. I'm here to walk beside you as you step into something old, ancient, sacred, yours. This is a journey back to your true self. The self that knows. The self that creates. The self that was never broken. Some call it intuition. Some call it soul. Some call it God. But beneath every label, every symbol, every language, it has always been, I am. You see, that I am isn't something out there. It's not a being in the sky or a power you must earn. It's what remains when the masks fall off. It's what speaks in stillness. It's what creates worlds from thought. You are I am in human form. Yes, you, right now, with all your questions, with all your wounds, with your longing, your fire, your quiet ache for something more. You're not broken. You're just disconnected from the voice that never stopped whispering your name. This book is a mirror, a key, a map written in words, but read by your heart. There will be no commandments, no doctrine, no promises of quick salvation, only invitations to pause, to listen, to speak back to that still voice and say, I hear you now. The chapters ahead are not linear steps. They are openings. Each one invites you to peel back a layer of forgetfulness, to silence the voice of doubt, to remember how to trust what you already know. You'll meet the persona, the one you think you are. You'll meet your doubt, your inner skeptic, your protective shadow. And most importantly, you'll meet the one who's been watching through your eyes all along. The I am. This presence does not demand. It does not force. It simply waits for you to say yes, not to a belief, but to a remembering. If you feel resistance, good, that means you're close. The ego doesn't resist lies. It resists truth, because truth dissolves its illusion of control. You will feel uncomfortable. That's part of awakening. You will feel exposed. That's part of being seen, truly seen. But you'll also feel something else. Peace. A kind of peace that doesn't depend on anything. A peace that says, you never had to try so hard to be what you already are. Before we begin, let me tell you something sacred. You're not late. You're not behind. You didn't miss your calling. You didn't fall too far. You are exactly where you need to be to remember who you truly are. Right here, right now, in this moment, hearing these words. You don't need to understand everything yet. You don't even need to believe. You just need to stay, to listen, to allow. This is your invitation. The whisper you forgot is about to become the voice you trust. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The reminder. You are I am. You You've probably been called a lot of things in your life. Your name, your role, the labels others gave you before you could even speak. Smart, shy, troublemaker, gifted, too much, not enough. Some of them stuck. Some you tried to erase. Most you learned to live with, not because they were true, but because they were expected. But long before any of those words touched your skin, there was something else. A silence, a presence, a knowing. Not taught, not earned, just there. I am. 2 words, but they are not words. They are origin. They are essence. They are your first truth and your last. This chapter is not here to convince you of anything. It's here to remind you, because deep down, you already know you are not your name. You are not your story. You are not your failures or your triumphs. You are I am in form. You are consciousness in motion. You are the breath behind your breath, the presence behind your eyes, the one who watches the thoughts rise and fall. That's why you're here, because you're ready to stop pretending that you're just a body navigating chaos. You're ready to remember that the storm outside isn't stronger than the stillness within. And that stillness? It is not passive. It is not silence born of fear. It is the origin of creation itself. I am. Not I will be. Not I was. Not I want to be. Just I am. Right now. Without needing to improve. Without needing to qualify. Can you feel it? That slight discomfort rising in your chest, as if the very structure of your identity is being questioned? Good. That is the sound of awakening. You've built your sense of self on so many stories. Stories about your past, your limitations, your personality, your worth. And now, something beneath all of it is knocking. Softly, steadily. You didn't imagine it. You didn't invent it. It's always been there. And now it wants to be heard. There was a time in your life when you didn't question your being, when you didn't need proof to feel alive, before the world demanded logic, plans, explanations, before you learned to perform certainty to mask your doubt. There was a time when you simply were. As a child, you didn't need to understand consciousness to experience it. You didn't need a theory of manifestation to manifest. You didn't need permission to be fully you. You played, you felt, you created, and slowly you were told, that's not how the world works. Stop dreaming, grow up, be realistic. And so the I am within you dimmed. Not because it left, it never leaves, but because you turned your attention outward, chasing mirrors instead of looking inward. Now, the mirrors are breaking. The job, the status, the approval, the relationship, they're not enough anymore, are they? They used to fill the silence. Now, they echo back your emptiness. That's not failure. That's the sign. That's how I am calls you home. It doesn't shout. It whispers. It doesn't demand. It waits. It doesn't convince. It remembers. You don't have to understand it fully. You just have to allow yourself to wonder. What if I'm more than I believed? What if I'm not broken at all? What if I'm not missing something? What if I've just been listening to the wrong voice? The one that says you're too late. The one that says you're not ready. The one that says you're not enough. That voice. It's not the I am. It's the mask. The echo of every unhealed wound. You're not that voice. You are the one who hears it. Let's go deeper now. Let's not just observe the I am as a concept. Let's feel it. Speak it. Live it. Right now, wherever you are, say it aloud. I am. Not as a statement of what you are, but as what you are. Not I am tired. Not I am scared. Not I am unworthy. Just I am. And notice the silence that follows. That stillness is not empty. It is full. It is alive. It is waiting. That pause between your breath. That's where God lives. You may ask, but if I am this powerful, why do I feel so lost? Why do I doubt? Why do I suffer? Because you believe the voice that said you were separate. You confused the noise of your mind for the truth of your being. You accepted limitation as identity. But listen closely. Can you hear what lies beneath the doubt? The steady presence that doesn't flinch, doesn't react, doesn't panic? That is I am, and it has been speaking all along. The journey ahead will not be linear. You'll remember, then forget. You'll feel light, then heavy. You'll soar, then sink. But through it all, the I am remains. Unchanging, unmoved, unbreakable. You don't need to chase it. You just need to return your attention to it. Not by force, but by softness, by breath, by presence, by saying, I choose to remember. And every time you forget, forgive yourself quickly. Don't make forgetting a failure. Make it a moment of return. That's what this path is, 1,000 tiny returns to truth. And in time, those returns become your rhythm, your natural state, your resting place. You're not here to become something. You are here to remember what you already are. You're not a seeker looking for light. You are the light the world has been seeking. And it begins again now with one quiet declaration. I am. Chapter 2, The Persona and the Veil of Forgetting. You weren't born with doubt. You didn't come into this world questioning your worth or second-guessing your intuition. You came in whole, radiant, aware, curious. You didn't ask permission to exist. You didn't measure your joy or hide your emotions. You simply were. Pure I am. And then, like a mist settling slowly over a clear sky, the forgetting began. Not all at once. It crept in softly. A look, a word, a moment of embarrassment, a rejection, a punishment, a rule spoken in fear, or love wrapped in control. At first, you noticed the contradiction. Then you adapted, and one by one, you began to trade parts of your truth for safety. That was never your fault. You were a child surviving a world that had forgotten its own divinity. You learned to put on the mask. The persona is not evil. It was born of necessity. It formed to protect you. It helped you fit in, earn love, avoid pain. It learned what was acceptable, what was praised, what was punished. It shaped itself around expectations like clay. It's clever, this mask. It mimics. It performs. It becomes so practiced that eventually, even you start believing it's real. But beneath it, something ancient waits. Something real. Something that never bent, never broke, never forgot. That something is the I am. And now, the persona feels fragile. Because it is. It was never meant to carry the weight of your soul. It was never meant to replace your truth, only to guard it, temporarily. But for most people, the guard became the identity. And the identity became the prison. Think about it. How many times have you said, that's just who I am, when really, what you meant was, that's who I learned to be. I need to be good, to be liked, to be successful, to be smart enough, strong enough, quiet enough, nice enough, all of it, scripts written by someone else's fear. And like any well-rehearsed character, the persona gets defensive when questioned. It fears being unmasked, exposed, dissolved. Because when you remove the persona, what's left? Silence, stillness, and the unfiltered presence of the I am. That's terrifying to the ego, but it's liberation to the soul. Let me tell you about a voice you've probably heard before. It shows up when you try to change, when you dare to speak your truth, when you stand at the edge of your comfort zone. It says things like, who do you think you are? You'll never follow through. People will judge you. You don't really know what you're doing. You've met this voice. Everyone has. I call it Phil. Phil isn't a person. Phil is the embodiment of internalized fear. He's the voice of collective doubt, unresolved shame, and inherited beliefs. He's not your enemy, but he is loud and persistent, and he only has power when you believe him. Phil loves comfort zones. He thrives in the predictable. He's allergic to change. But here's the secret. Phil is not the I am. Phil doesn't speak truth. He speaks protection. And protection, when based in fear, becomes a prison. You don't need to fight Phil. You don't need to silence him. You just need to stop mistaking him for yourself. You can even talk to him, gently, with compassion. Phil, you can say, I hear you. I know you're scared, but I'm not listening to you today because I remember who I am. You can thank him. You can let him speak, then move on. He'll get quieter over time, not because you've defeated him, but because you stopped feeding him your power. Every time you return to your breath, every time you pause before reacting, every time you listen inward instead of outward, you pull the veil back a little more. This veil, the forgetting, isn't a punishment. It's part of the design, because in forgetting, we are gifted the power of remembering. In remembering, we are not told who we are. We experience it directly, and that experience is unshakable. No external voice can override it, because it doesn't come from thought. It comes from being. Have you ever felt something awaken in you? Not because someone explained it, but because something inside of you simply recognized it? That's the spark of remembrance. That's what's happening now. You're not absorbing information. You're activating memory. Your soul is saying, yes, I've always known this. That's how you know you're on the path. Not when everything feels certain, but when everything feels familiar in a way you can't explain. Let me tell you something else about Phil. He doesn't like mystery. He doesn't like stillness. He panics in silence because silence is where truth speaks, and truth doesn't negotiate. Truth doesn't justify itself. It doesn't compete for your attention. It just is. And that's terrifying to the persona, which thrives on control. But you are not the persona. You're the awareness watching it, the breath beneath it, the presence it tries to imitate. The more you relax into that truth, the less you need the mask. And the less you need the mask, the more life flows through you rather than around you. You don't need to rip the mask off in one dramatic act. You don't need to destroy the persona. Just stop letting it make your decisions. Stop letting Phil run the show. Start asking different questions. Not, how do I fix myself? But, what part of me forgot I'm already whole? Not, what should I do to be accepted? But, what would I do if I already accepted myself completely? Not, how do I become who I'm meant to be? But, what do I already know that I've been pretending to forget? And here's something radical. You don't need to improve yourself to return to the I am. You only need to stop pretending you're not already it. The persona will resist that. Phil will resist that. But the deeper part of you will exhale, because it's been waiting for you to come home. This is not the kind of home made of walls and windows. It's the home of being, of stillness, of knowing. And once you've touched it, you'll never be satisfied with anything less. So next time doubt comes in, try this. Pause, breathe, acknowledge Phil, then say, I choose truth. I choose presence. I choose to remember. And then do nothing. Let silence speak. Let the I am rise. Chapter 3, The Inner I, Learning to Hear Again. There's a sound you've heard your entire life. Not with your ears. Not in the way you hear footsteps or music or breath. This sound comes from somewhere deeper, somewhere quieter. It doesn't shout, doesn't interrupt, doesn't demand. It waits, patiently, faithfully, timelessly. It's the sound of the I am, and it's been speaking to you all along. You just forgot how to listen. You were never taught to listen for truth. You were taught to listen for approval, for correction, for the right answer. You were trained to analyze, interpret, memorize, but you were never taught how to receive, how to sense, how to sit in silence and let your knowing rise like smoke in a still room. No one taught you that intuition is a language. And like any language, it must be practiced to be remembered. You see, the I am doesn't speak in sentences. It speaks in pulses, in textures, in subtle nudges and quiet yes that don't always make sense at first glance. It doesn't speak to the mind. It speaks through the soul. And that requires a different kind of listening. Call it your inner eye, your third ear, your heart-mind. The name doesn't matter. What matters is this. There is a part of you that can hear truth beneath noise. A part that recognizes resonance before logic. A part that listens not with the brain, but with presence. When you remember how to hear from that place, everything changes. The chaos becomes background music. The fear becomes fog that lifts. The questions become invitations. And most importantly, the answers start to come. Not all at once. Not in lightning bolts, but in stillness, in pattern, in feeling. Like remembering a song you didn't know you knew. Start small, not with life-altering decisions, but with something simple. Sit with a question like, is this the path of my expansion? Does this bring me closer to the truth of who I am? Is this voice speaking from fear or from the I am? And then, wait, let the answer rise. Don't chase it. Don't force it. Don't rush to decode it. Listen like you would to someone you trust deeply. Someone who speaks softly, knowing you will lean in close just to catch every word. That is how that I am speaks. Softly, lovingly, with no urgency, because it is never in a hurry. But there will be other voices, too. You know them well by now. The voice of Phil. The voice of old fears, replayed like a loop. The voice of conditioning, telling you what you should want, what is safe, what is realistic. Those voices are loud because they're practiced, but loudness is not truth. Repetition is not wisdom. And the longer you listen to the inner voice of stillness, the more clearly you'll recognize when something isn't it. Truth has a texture. It feels like peace. Even when it terrifies the ego, it soothes the soul. It might not always be the answer you want, but it will always be the one that frees you. There's a reason many of the ancient mystics, across every tradition, spent time in silence. Not because silence is holy, but because silence is space. And space is where the I am can be heard. Modern life doesn't offer much silence. Notifications, deadlines, algorithms, opinions. The noise is constant, but so is the opportunity to turn inward. Even for one breath, even for one whispered, I'm here, speak. You don't need a cave or a temple. You don't need incense or mantras, though you can use them if they help. What you need is willingness. Willingness to pause. Willingness to feel foolish. Willingness to trust what you hear before it makes sense. Because it will never make sense to the mind that was trained to obey noise. There may be moments when you think you're making it up. That's okay. At first, it will feel like imagination. Because imagination is the language of the soul. Let yourself play. Let yourself wonder. Remember, the I am isn't hiding from you. You've just been trained to ignore it. But now, you're remembering. And with remembering comes reception. You'll begin to notice things you used to overlook. A sudden knowing. A phrase that lands in your mind out of nowhere. A dream that leaves an aftertaste of truth. These are not accidents. They are echoes of the voice you're learning to hear again. Let's practice right now. Wherever you are, close your eyes, if that feels safe. Bring your awareness to the center of your chest. Not your thoughts, not your breath, just your presence. Now ask, what does the I am want me to remember right now? And then listen. Maybe you hear nothing. Maybe you feel a warmth. Maybe a phrase appears. You are safe, or let go, or keep going. Trust it. That's how it begins. The more you listen, the more you'll realize that I am has never been silent. It's been waiting for your attention. It speaks in the pause between thoughts, in a moment before reaction, in a breath you forget to take. It speaks when you listen without expectation, when you surrender the need to control what you'll hear. And when you do, you begin to live from guidance, not guessing. That is the path of the I am. Not certainty, but alignment. And alignment, once felt, becomes addictive. Not because it's easy, but because it feels like home. Let me leave you with this. Your inner eye is never closed. It's only been clouded by forgetting. But now the mist is lifting. Now you remember how to hear again. And the more you listen, the more the voice becomes your compass. It will lead you. It will correct you. It will carry you, not to a destination, but back to yourself, back to the I am that was always listening, just waiting for you to hear it. Chapter 4, The Invisible Enemy, Doubt. Doubt is not the enemy, at least not in the way you've been taught to fear it. It's not a flaw in your intelligence or a crack in your faith. It's not a weakness. Doubt is a signal, a whisper from within, asking, "Are you sure?" And if you listen closely, not to the fear that rides along with doubt, but to the silence underneath it, you'll hear a deeper voice. One that says, "You already know. You've just forgotten to trust what you know." Doubt is subtle. It rarely announces itself with a shout. It comes in with a sigh, a pause, a twinge in the gut. It comes after the intuitive yes, like a shadow that stretches across sunlight. You feel the expansion first, then the second guessing. You feel the guidance, then the question. You feel the truth, and then Phil speaks. Yes, he's back. Phil, the voice of resistance. The internalized echo of every time you were told not to trust yourself. He doesn't mean harm. He means protection. But his version of safety is sameness. It's the familiar cage. And his favorite tool? Doubt. Phil will tell you it's wisdom to hesitate, that it's noble to be skeptical, that it's dangerous to leap without guarantees. But here's the truth. There are no guarantees. There never were. Every choice is a doorway into the unknown. And the only guide you truly have is the I am. When you live from that place, when you speak, move, and create from the soul, Phil panics. Because the soul is free. And freedom threatens the walls Phil has built. You've been trained to trust doubt more than intuition. Because intuition feels like risk. It speaks before evidence. It doesn't follow logic. It doesn't wait for permission. So when it speaks, Phil reacts. He throws the same questions at you again and again. What if you're wrong? What if they laugh at you? What if you fail? What if this is just your imagination? But here's the question Phil never asks. What if you're right? What if that whisper was the I am inviting you into the next version of your life? What if that leap leads to your actual freedom? What if staying small is the real danger? Doubt thrives in delay. It multiplies in the moments you pause to overthink. It loves when you open 5 tabs on your browser looking for confirmation. It grows when you poll your friends, your therapist, your guides, anyone but your own knowing. Because the longer you wait, the louder Phil becomes. That's not wisdom. That's hesitation soaked in fear. And fear, unchecked, becomes a belief. A belief that says, I can't trust myself. But you can. You always could. You just forgot. Let's be clear. Doubt will not disappear just because you remember who you are. It will still show up. Why? Because every time you expand, the old version of you gets scared. And that fear shows up as doubt. Doubt is the symptom of transformation. So when it arises, don't collapse. Don't assume it means stop. Don't hand the steering wheel to Phil. Instead, pause, breathe, and say, there you are. This means I'm growing. Here's a shift that will change your life. Doubt doesn't mean don't. It means decide. Decide who you're going to believe. Decide which voice gets the lead. Decide whether you're going to live the life your soul designed, or the one fear tries to keep you in. When you feel doubt, ask yourself, is this doubt coming from expansion or avoidance? Is this a sacred pause or a fearful delay? Is this caution or resistance dressed up as logic? You'll feel the answer in your body. Truth is always felt. You just have to get quiet enough to notice. Let's reframe the relationship. Imagine sitting across from Phil. He's fidgeting, anxious, biting his nails. He's got a clipboard with every possible worst-case scenario. He tells you to stop. He begs you to think twice. He reminds you of every failure in your past. You take a breath. You don't interrupt. You listen. You nod. And then you say, "Thank you, Phil. I know you're trying to protect me, but I've got this now." And you move forward anyway. That's sovereignty. That's inner leadership. That's what it means to walk as the I am. You don't need to argue with doubt. You don't need to conquer it. You only need to stop following it. You can witness it, acknowledge it, even thank it for trying to keep you safe. But then you turn back inward, and you ask the voice that doesn't need volume or proof, "What's my next step?" And the answer will come. Quiet, clear, peaceful. Maybe not in words. Maybe in a feeling. Maybe in a sudden knowing. Maybe in a vision that seems too wild to be yours. Trust it anyway, because that is the voice of the I am. And its job isn't to keep you safe. Its job is to keep you awake. Here's a truth you already know. The most sacred decisions in your life never made logical sense. The love that cracked you open. The path that scared you into breathing deeper. The moment you walked away from something secure because your soul whispered, "Not this." That was not logic. That was not certainty. That was the I am pulling you back into alignment. Every time you trusted that voice, even a little, something shifted. And even if the outcome wasn't what you expected, you became more you. That is the point. Not control, not perfection, but embodiment. The more you trust your truth, the more you become your truth. So let doubt come. Let it knock. Let it speak its list of fears. And then, without flinching, return to your breath, to your center, to your remembering. I am. Say it aloud if you need to. Whisper in your kitchen. Speak in the mirror. Write in your journal 100 times. Let those words be your anchor. Let them be the sound Phil can never drown out. Because in the end, doubt is just noise. And I am is the silence that remains when the noise fades. Chapter 5, The Channel of the Soul, Writing as Prayer. There's a door inside you that only opens when you stop trying to open it. A door made not of wood, but of silence. Not of hinges, but of surrender. It doesn't creak when it opens. It hums, quietly, like an old melody you once knew. And behind that door is your soul. Not the idea of your soul. Not a concept you read about or a metaphor for feelings. Your actual soul. Whole, wise, awake. And it is always speaking. But here's the thing. It doesn't shout. It doesn't argue. It doesn't beg for your attention. It doesn't push past your resistance. It waits for an invitation, for space, for your presence. And sometimes it waits for your pen. You've probably written thousands of things in your life. Notes, lists, texts, deadlines, emails, essays. You've written to remember. You've written to be heard. You've written to explain yourself. But have you ever written to meet yourself? Not to control the words, not to sound wise, not to impress, but to listen on paper. That's what this chapter is about. Writing not as output, but as communion. There's a sacred shift that happens when you write without agenda. When you let your thoughts unravel, unfiltered. When your pen moves faster than your ego can edit. When you stop trying to sound like someone and start sounding like yourself. That's when something deeper begins to speak. Call it the soul. Call it your higher self. Call it God. Call it I am. But it speaks. And when it does, the words don't feel like yours. They feel like remembering. You don't need to be a writer to do this. You just need to be willing. Willing to listen, to let go, to show up to the blank page the same way you show up to the mirror, with nothing to prove and everything to uncover. Start simple. Grab a notebook. Sit in silence. Breathe. Then ask a question. A real one. Something that lives beneath the surface. What do I need to see right now? What part of me wants to be heard? What truth have I been avoiding? Then write. Don't think. Don't fix. Don't plan. Just let your hand move. Even if the first few lines are awkward or blank or filled with resistance, keep going. There's treasure beneath the noise. And then something miraculous happens. The voice shifts. You'll feel it. Suddenly the words are clearer, stronger. They vibrate with something beyond your understanding. It's not your inner critic. It's not your wounded child. It's not Phil. It's the I am. And it's speaking through you. This is not new. It's ancient. The prophets, the mystics, the poets, they all wrote like this. Not from ego, from encounter. They didn't claim to invent the wisdom. They received it. And so will you. Because the I am is not reserved for saints. It doesn't belong to one religion. It doesn't require robes or rituals. It requires you, naked in presence, open in heart, willing in spirit. You may find that certain patterns arise, phrases repeat, questions evolve into revelations. You cry, you laugh, you feel seen by something inside you that was never gone, only quiet. This is not journaling. This is prayer with ink, a form of devotion that doesn't ask for anything except honesty. One day, you may look back at a page and wonder, did I really write that? And the answer is yes and no. Your hand did, but the voice, it came from the space behind your mind, from the part of you that never doubted, from the I am. Let that voice guide you. Let surprise you. Let's say the thing your ego is terrified to admit. You already know the way. Sometimes your writing will be messy. It will bring up pain. It will reveal the parts of you you've kept buried. It will expose contradictions, lies, hopes you thought you'd buried long ago. Don't stop. That is the medicine. The I am doesn't only speak in light. It illuminates the dark, not to shame you, to free you. Each word becomes a thread. And with each line, you weave a bridge back to your soul. Try this. Tonight, before you sleep, open your notebook. Title the page, I am speaking. Then write a single sentence. What do you want me to know right now? And wait. Even if nothing comes at first, stay. Listen. The voice will come. It always does. It's been waiting longer than you know. And when it does, let it pour through you. Don't analyze. Don't interrupt. Just receive. When the words stop, close the page. Thank the voice. And rest. That is prayer. You'll start to notice something strange. The more you write like this, the more your outer life begins to shift. Decisions become clearer. Serendipities appear. Old wounds soften. New desires surface. Because when you commune with the soul, you come into alignment. And when you're aligned, life rearranges itself around your frequency. This is not magic. This is remembrance. This is the natural result of being in flow with truth. This practice doesn't need rules. You can write daily, weekly, in the margins of receipts, or in long, poetic bursts. There is no right way. The only requirement is that you show up as you are, not as you think you should be. Because the I am doesn't speak to your performance. It speaks to your presence. So let writing become your temple, your sacred ground, your mirror and your altar. Let it hold your questions and your ache. Let it catch your grief and amplify your gratitude. Let it remind you what it feels like to be home, inside yourself. No filters, no edits, no persona, just paper, ink, breath, God. The next time doubt creeps in, right? The next time fear roars, right? The next time joy overwhelms you, right? Let your soul stretch through your fingers. Let your truth take shape. Let the I am become visible on the page, because it's always been there. And now, you're listening. Chapter 6, The Child and the Inner God. Before you became who you think you are, you were someone far more sacred. Before the name, before the roles, before the wounds and the walls and the stories you've spent years reciting. You were whole, not flawless, but full. Not innocent in the way the world defines it, but untouched by shame, unpolluted by doubt, You were not becoming anything. You simply were. I am. That child still lives inside you. Not metaphorically, not as a psychological relic, but as a presence, quiet, sensitive, undying. This child doesn't need to be fixed. It needs to be remembered, because long before you learned how to blend in, you knew how to shine without apology. You didn't second-guess your joy. You didn't overanalyze your desires. You didn't measure your worth by productivity. You ran toward wonder. You were inherently worthy without trying. That was never taught. It was your natural state, and it still is. But something happened. Life happened. You were told to calm down, to be less loud, to grow up, to stop crying, to act normal. You were praised when you pleased, corrected when you showed too much of your soul. And slowly, part of you began to retreat. Not because you were wrong, but because the world didn't know how to hold what was so real, so bright. That retreat wasn't abandonment. It was protection. The child within you didn't disappear. It just went quiet, watching, waiting, hoping you'd come back. And now you are. That child is your clearest link to the I am. Not because of innocence, but because of authenticity. Children don't pretend well. They cry when they're hurt. They shout when they're excited. They ask relentlessly for what they need. They trust instinct. They trust energy. They see what we forget to see. They hear the voice you've been remembering, the whisper of God in the space between thoughts, the pulse of truth that vibrates beneath every surface. To be childlike is not to regress. It is to return to the part of you that was never disconnected from divinity. There's a practice I want to offer you. It's simple, but it's sacred. Find a quiet space. Sit with your breath and close your eyes. Now picture yourself as a child. Let them appear as they wish. No forcing. No editing. You don't need to control the image. Just allow it. See their face, their hands, their eyes. What do they look like? Where are they? How do they feel? Approach them gently, without expectation. Sit beside them and say, either silently or aloud, I remember you. I missed you. You are safe now. Then listen. What do they want to say? What do they need? What have they been holding all this time? Let come. You may cry. You may feel nothing. You may be flooded with images, smells, memories long buried. Whatever comes, receive it. This is reunion. This is homecoming. Many people try to heal the inner child as if it were a wound. But what if it's not broken? What if it's not asking to be fixed, but to be welcomed? What if it doesn't need therapy so much as presence? To be seen again, heard again, held without judgment. Because at its core, the inner child isn't pain. It's pure connection. It remembers what your adult mind forgot. That you are not separate. You are not alone. You are not unworthy. You are divine. Let me tell you something sacred. The I am lives where your inner child still plays. In your wonder, in your questions, in your wildness, in your longing to be both held and free. That's not immaturity. That's God in human form. That's what it looks like when spirit dances. You may ask, but how do I live from that place in a world that feels so harsh? The answer isn't to protect your child self with stronger walls. It's to let that child lead, not recklessly, but bravely. It's to let joy be your compass, curiosity your map, stillness your guide. When the world tells you to dim, shine anyway. When Phil tells you to grow up, kneel down and listen to your child self instead. When fear says it's not safe, wrap your arms around that younger you and say, I've got us now. You were never meant to lose that child. You were meant to integrate them. You were meant to become the adult your younger self needed. Not the one who conforms, but the one who remembers. The one who chooses truth over tradition, presence over performance, wonder over weariness. The one who listens to the quiet voice within and says, yes, I still believe in magic. Because you do. You always have. Here's the paradox. The more you grow spiritually, the more childlike you become. Not naive, but uncluttered. Not fragile, but fiercely tender. Not foolish, but willing to believe in beauty without proof. This is not regression. It's returning. Returning to the place where the I am was always loudest. Before the doubt, before the filters, before the world convinced you to mistrust what you feel. That place still exists. It exists in your laughter, in your tears, in your longing for something you can't quite name. And it exists right now, in this breath. So next time the world feels too much, don't armor up. Instead, go inward. Find your child. Hold them. Let them speak. Ask them what they remember about who you are. And then listen. Really listen. Because they might just say something like, "You are still the light." Or, "I never forgot." Or maybe, "Can we play again?" And when they do, say yes. Say yes with your breath. Yes with your silence. Yes with your willingness to trust that you've always been more than what they told you. Yes to joy. Yes to tears. Yes to being fully, divinely human. Because that's where God lives. In the child who remembers. In the soul who listens. In the I am that never left. Chapter 7. The Law of One. What you think, you become. There's a thread that connects every ancient teaching, every mystical tradition, every whisper of truth passed from sage to student. It's simple. It's infinite. It's terrifying and liberating all at once. What you think, you become. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, literally. Your thoughts are not passive. They are blueprints. They are seeds. They are spells. And every moment you think, you are shaping reality. This isn't philosophy. It's physics. Thought is frequency. Emotion is vibration. Intention is architecture. And you're not separate from the world you live in. You are creating it moment by moment, belief by belief. That's the law of one. Not that everything is the same, but that everything is connected. Every thought touches the whole. Every choice echoes outward. Every inner frequency becomes external form. You're not reacting to life. You're co-authoring it. That truth is both a gift and a responsibility. Because once you understand it, you can't unknow it. You can no longer say, "This is just happening to me." You begin to see, "This is responding to me." And when you realize that victimhood becomes obsolete, you can still grieve. You can still feel. You can still rage against injustice. But you stop giving your power away to the illusion that life is happening without your participation. Because it never was. Let's be clear. This doesn't mean you're to blame for everything you've experienced. This isn't about guilt. It's about agency. There is karma. There are ancestral patterns. There is collective conditioning. But beneath all of it, there's a choice. You can continue creating from unconscious fear, or you can create from conscious presence. That is your power. The I am is not a spectator. It is the divine force that speaks into form. It doesn't observe reality. It authors it. It doesn't ask permission to create. It declares. And every time you speak, think, or feel, you're declaring, not just with words, but with vibration. Let's make it practical. What happens when you think, "I'm not good enough"? That's not just a thought. It's a command. It sends a signal to the field around you, saying, "Bring me more evidence to prove this is true." And so you do. You attract people who reflect that belief. You miss opportunities that contradict it. You reinforce patterns that validate it. Not because life is punishing you, but because life is obedient. It mirrors the voice you trust most. Now reverse it. What happens when you think, "I am whole. I am guided. I am a vessel for divine power"? At first, your system may resist. Phil may scoff. Your nervous system may tremble. But stay with it. Say it again. Feel it again. And watch as your inner field begins to shift. Watch how new ideas appear. Watch how new people enter. Watch how life begins to organize itself around your new declaration. not because you forced it, but because you aligned with it. You don't manifest from the surface. You manifest from belief, from feeling, from repetition. You manifest from the vibration you carry when no one is watching. That's why affirmations aren't magic spells by themselves. It's not about saying the right words. It's about becoming the frequency behind them. When you say, I am, mean it. Say it from your gut, from your spine, from the place where your voice shakes because something real is waking up. That's when the field responds. That's when mountains move. Here's the beauty of the law of one. You don't have to fix the whole world. You only have to change your frequency. Because when you shift, everything connected to you shifts too. That's not hope. That's physics. The micro affects the macro. The inner reflects the outer. You are not isolated. You are a tuning fork in the symphony of being. When you resonate with truth, others feel it, even if they don't know why. You've felt this before. You've met people who light up a room without saying a word. You've heard music that opens something in your chest you didn't know was closed. You've read words that seem to arrive at the perfect moment. Why? Because resonance doesn't lie. When something carries the frequency of truth, your soul recognizes it. That's the law of one in action. One vibration rippling through the many. So let's ask, what are you vibrating right now? Not just what you say, but what you believe, what you embody, what you expect. Do your thoughts match the truth you say you want? Do your feelings match the future you're trying to create? If not, that's not failure. That's feedback. That's an invitation to shift. And shifting doesn't require force. It requires presence. When you find yourself spiraling into fear, don't shame yourself. Just pause. Breathe. Return to I am. Say it aloud. Let it anchor you. Because the moment you shift internally, you interrupt the old pattern. You break the spell. You remember your role as co-creator. Not out of ego, but out of reverence. This is the path now. Not to become something new, but to consciously choose what you're already becoming every moment. To say, I am peace. I am aligned. I am worthy of love. I am ready to create. And then to act like it's true, not performatively, but energetically. To let that truth live in your breath, your choices, your relationships, your art. Because when you align your thoughts with the I am, creation becomes effortless. Life begins to flow through you, not just around you. Remember, you are not separate from Source. You are not hoping for a miracle. You are built to be one. Your mind is not a prison. It is an altar, and every thought placed upon it becomes an offering to the field of creation. So choose wisely. Speak clearly. Think lovingly. Not because the universe is judging you, but because it's always listening, and it believes you. Chapter 8, The Sacred Language, Words as Portals. Words are not just sounds, they're spells. You've spoken thousands of them today, perhaps without thought, without weight, without knowing. But every word that leaves your lips, every sentence whispered in silence, carries a frequency. And that frequency doesn't vanish. It builds. It binds. It becomes. In the beginning was the Word. This isn't just sacred poetry. It's a metaphysical truth. Creation begins in vibration, and words are vibration clothed in meaning. They are not passive descriptors. They are active forces. To speak is to shape. To name is to anchor. To declare is to create. Every I am you've ever spoken has carved a path through the invisible field around you. And yet, we speak without reverence. We toss our words like pennies into a well, hoping, doubting, forgetting. We curse ourselves in passing. I'm such an idiot. I can't do this. I'm always tired. Nothing ever works out for me. We say these things casually, habitually, not realizing we are enchanting our own lives, not with witchcraft or superstition, with repetition, because what you say most often becomes what you believe, and what you believe becomes what you allow. Your words build your atmosphere. They create the weather around your soul. You know this intuitively. You've walked into a room where someone said nothing, and yet the tension was tangible. You've read a message that made your heart sink or soar. You've said something and immediately felt the air change. Why? Because words are not neutral. They carry charge. They carry memory. They carry the intention of your inner world into form. But here's the gift. You can speak differently. You can choose to use language as ritual, not reaction. You can speak like someone who knows they are not just describing life. They are co-creating it. You can choose words that open doors instead of closing them. I am ready. I am listening. I am aligned with truth. I'm more than I've allowed myself to be. Feel the difference? These words don't beg. They become. This isn't about lying to yourself. This isn't about bypassing pain or pretending you're okay when you're not. It's about choosing language that points toward your truth, even when you're still walking toward it. It's the difference between saying, I'm lost, and saying, I'm in the process of remembering. One shuts the door, the other cracks it open. One keeps you in the story, the other moves you toward the source. Your body hears your words. Your cells listen. When you say, I'm exhausted, you deepen your fatigue. When you say, I am healing, your system begins to respond accordingly. This is not magic. This is biology wrapped in divinity. The nervous system, the subconscious mind, the energy body, they all respond to the language you feed them. So feed them wisely. Speak to yourself the way you would to someone you love without condition, not with pity, with power, not with judgment, with awe. You're not broken. You're in progress. You're not late. You are aligning. You're not small. You are remembering how vast you've always been. Let your words reflect that truth. There's a practice I offer you now. Once a day, find a moment of silence. Place your hand on your heart and speak aloud or silently. I am. Then wait. Feel. Let the sentence complete itself, if it wants to. I am safe. I am becoming. I am guided. I am light in motion. You don't need to plan it. Let it arise. You are not just reciting. You are aligning. You are tuning yourself to the frequency of creation. And when you speak to others, pause. Let your words be clear, clean, conscious, not perfect, not performative, just honest, rooted, alive. Words can heal without being poetic. I see you. I believe in you. I understand. I'm here. These are portals. They open hearts. They melt resistance. They change timelines. You never know how deeply your words might land in someone else's soul. But when you speak from I am, they always land where they're meant to. Some days you'll forget. You'll curse your path. You'll speak fear instead of faith. That's okay. Words, too, can be forgiven. You can rewrite. You can recode. You can speak again and again and again, because every sentence is a new seed, and every silence between them is fertile ground. Here is a truth few will tell you. You're speaking reality into being constantly, not in some distant, abstract way. Here, now, with every inner monologue, every whisper before sleep, every story you tell about yourself. And your words aren't just shaping your life. They're shaping your identity. Because language is the mirror we hold up to our own becoming. So hold it carefully. Use your words not to defend your pain, but to declare your wholeness. Not to replay your old story, but to invoke your return. Speak with intention. Speak with reverence. Speak like someone who understands they are not just a body with a voice, but a soul with the power to move mountains with breath. Because you are, and you always have been. Chapter 9, The Great Undoing, Unlearning the World to Remember Yourself. There comes a moment on every soul's path when learning is no longer enough. You've read the books. You've heard the teachers. You've memorized the wisdom. You've repeated the affirmations. But still, something stirs deep inside, a quiet ache that whispers. This isn't about learning more. It's about letting go, because the truth isn't something you need to collect. It's something you need to uncover, and uncovering requires undoing. Unlearning is sacred work. It's the gentle process of peeling back every belief you were handed that was too small for your spirit. It's the dismantling of borrowed identities, inherited fears, generational scripts. It's the pause between who you were told to be and who you actually are. It's not rebellion. It's remembrance. And it's uncomfortable. The world taught you many things. It taught you to strive, to compare, to shrink in the presence of power, to earn love by shape-shifting. It taught you that productivity equals worth, that stillness equals laziness, that sensitivity is weakness. You learned to armor your heart, to harden your voice, to survive what should have been soft. And now, it's time to unlearn it all, not because you failed, but because you're ready. The I am does not exist in ideas. It lives beneath them, and to return to it, you must be willing to strip away the noise, the layers, the masks, not through violence, through gentleness, through breathing, through witnessing, through asking, whose voice is this really? Where did I learn this version of myself? Is this mine or inherited? Here's what you'll discover. Much of what you thought was you was never yours to begin with. The shame was passed down. The self-doubt was cultural. The guilt was systemic. You became a mirror for a fractured world. Before you knew you had the right to say no. Now you do. Now you see. And when you see clearly, you can choose differently. Unlearning doesn't mean forgetting everything. It means reevaluating what no longer resonates with the truth of your soul. It means questioning the unquestioned. It means breaking contracts with old versions of yourself that were built in fear. It means realizing, I don't have to be who I was when I was surviving, because you're not surviving anymore. You're awakening. An awakening demands spaciousness. Imagine taking off a heavy coat. You've worn it for so long. You forgot what it felt like to move without it. At first, the air feels strange. The weightlessness feels vulnerable. You feel exposed, but you're finally free. That's what this process is. The coat was the conditioning. The cold was the lie that told you you needed it. And now, the sun is rising. You don't need protection from your own light anymore. Let go of the lie that healing means becoming someone new. It doesn't. Healing means remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. It means reclaiming the parts of you you buried to belong. It means unhooking from identities that kept you safe but small. You don't need to fix yourself. You need to release the untruths that convinced you you were broken. That's the great undoing. You may feel lost during this process. Good. Loss is sacred. Confusion is holy. It means you've stepped outside the known. You're standing in the gap. Not who you were. Not yet who you will be. It's not a void. It's a threshold. Let it be what it is. Don't rush through it. Don't fill it. Feel it. This is where the soul speaks clearest. Because it has room. Let's speak practically. How do you unlearn? You become curious. You stop assuming. You begin to listen beneath the words. You question any belief that begins with, I always, I never, I can't. I'm just the kind of person who. You challenge the absolutes. You hold them up to the light of your I am and ask, is this true? Or is this familiar? Because truth expands. Familiarity often confines. Unlearning requires patience. You won't shed it all in a day. You'll forget. You'll fall back into old patterns. You'll confuse discomfort with danger. But each time you remember, you build a new pattern. Each time you pause instead of perform, breathe instead of react, listen instead of prove, you return to truth. You return to presence. You return to yourself. There is no graduation from this work. You will unlearn your whole life. And that's beautiful, because the more you release, the more space you create. for clarity, for grace, for divine memory, for the voice that whispers. You were never lost. You were only layered. And now, you're peeling back. You are dissolving. You are returning. Say this to yourself now, gently. I am willing to let go. I am ready to remember. I trust what is being revealed in the undoing. Let those words wash over your nervous system. Let them land not as mantras, but as permission to rest, to exhale, to soften into becoming again. Because sometimes the most powerful awakening doesn't sound like thunder. It sounds like the quiet crumbling of a lie you no longer believe. Chapter 10, The Daily Temple, Living as a Sacred Act. We often imagine the sacred as something far away. A mountain, a monastery, a moment so pure that the world hushes just long enough for the divine to speak. But what if the sacred was never separate? What if holiness was always here, folded into the ordinary? What if the temple wasn't a place you visit, but a rhythm you live? The temple is your morning breath, the one you forget to appreciate as your soul returns to your body. It's the first sip of water that meets your cells like an ancient offering. It's the way light pours across your floor like a silent choir. You don't need incense for it to be holy. You don't need candles or chants. You only need presence. Because presence is what transforms the mundane into the miraculous. You're the altar. Your thoughts are the offerings. Your attention is the flame. Your body is the sanctuary in which the divine chooses to dwell. When you remember that, everything shifts. Brushing your teeth becomes a ritual of care. Making your bed becomes a practice of order. Walking becomes a moving prayer. The I Am doesn't wait for you in special moments. It walks with you in every moment, waiting to be noticed. The modern world teaches speed, efficiency, multitasking, but the soul moves slowly. It lingers. It tastes. It listens. So to walk with your soul, you must slow down, not always in movement, but in awareness. Try this. Pour your tea as if the act could change your life. Because maybe it can. Maybe the way you treat the small things is the way you've always treated your soul, as something to be rushed, ignored, or scheduled. Now you see. Now you return. Devotion doesn't require performance. It requires intimacy. The kind of intimacy that meets your eyes in the mirror and says, "You are not a machine. You are a mystery in motion. You do not exist to produce. You exist to feel, to witness, to taste divinity in the fabric of your day, to remember again and again that life itself is the ceremony. We don't arrive at enlightenment. We return to it in 1,000 ordinary ways. By choosing stillness when we could scroll, by breathing deeply instead of rushing, by speaking kindly when no one's watching, by tending to our inner world the way we tend to sacred flame, with reverence, patience, and trust. This is the real practice. Not escape, not transcendence, but integration, letting your divinity saturate the details. You won't always feel sacred. You'll forget. You'll get impatient. You'll raise your voice. You'll rush your morning and eat your lunch standing up. And even then, the I Am remains. Not disappointed, not distant, just present, waiting for you to notice again, to whisper, "I remember, I return, I begin again." That too is sacred. You may think you need to do something grand to be spiritual. Write a book, visit a guru, host a retreat. But your real initiation, it begins when you treat the life you already have as holy ground. Your home is your temple, your breath, your blessing, your attention, the incense. When you bring intention to the ordinary transfigures. That's not poetry. That's transformation. Ask yourself, what does sacred feel like in my body? What does devotion look like in my relationships? Where have I treated presence as optional? These questions aren't for guilt. They're for awakening. not to create more rules, but to create more room. Room for the I am, to infuse your life like water infuses tea, not instantly, but inevitably, drop by drop, breath by breath. Consider this. You wake in the morning and remember, not your to-do list, but your truth. You place your feet on the ground, not as a habit, but as a prayer. You move slowly, not to be inefficient, but to be available. To what? To grace, to guidance, to the sacred voice inside saying, this too is part of it. Even traffic, even dishes, even the ache in your back or the tear you didn't expect. This too is part of it. You don't need to escape your life to find God. You need to enter it more fully, with eyes that soften, with a breath that listens, with a heart that recognizes. This moment is enough, because I am enough. That's the temple. It doesn't need steeples or robes. It needs you, awake in the present. Say this now if you like. Everything I touch is sacred, because I bring this sacred with me. Say it again, not like a mantra, like a remembering. Say it when you cook. Say it when you walk into your office. Say it when you touch someone you love. Because you're not just interacting, you're imprinting, you're blessing, you're living the I am in motion. And when the day ends, let your closing rituals be gentle. Turn off the lights like you're dimming a cathedral. Bathe as if you're rinsing away not just dirt, but density. Climb in a bed as if it were a cocoon. And whisper, thank you for letting me live this day awake. Even if you weren't fully awake. Thank yourself for trying, for showing up, for choosing to begin again tomorrow. Because tomorrow is another temple. Chapter 11, The Return, Living as the I Am. This is not an ending. You haven't arrived at a conclusion. You've returned to a center that was never far, only forgotten. This is the place you began, before names, before stories, before trying to earn what was already yours. You have not become someone new. You have remembered someone eternal. You, I am. You say it now, not with hesitation, but with resonance, not as a hope, but as a declaration, not just in sacred silence, but in ordinary breath. Because you've seen now, the sacred was never separate. The light was never distant. The voice was never silent. You were simply listening to the wrong frequency. Now you know how to tune in. So what now? You live it, not just in meditation or writing, not just in ritual or prayer. You live in traffic, in laughter, in heartbreak, in every moment that asks, will you forget again? Or will you embody what you know? You respond not with perfection, but with presence, because living as the I am is not about always knowing. It's about always returning. You will forget. That's okay. The I am doesn't punish you for forgetting. It waits in the silence behind your next breath. It whispers in your return. You forget. You breathe. You remember. That cycle is not failure. It's devotion. To live as the I am means. You listen more than you speak. You choose alignment over approval. You stop outsourcing your truth to others. You understand that clarity comes from stillness, not control. You don't force outcomes. You follow frequency. You stop begging for signs and start becoming one. You wake up each day not asking, what should I do? But rather, who must I be to align with what's already mine? And then you let life rise to meet you. You begin to speak differently. You speak less of problems and more of patterns, less of obstacles and more of initiations. You speak not to be heard, but to offer resonance. You speak truthfully, not perfectly. And when you say, I am, you mean it. You feel in your bones. You let it shape your posture, your choices, your presence. You no longer speak from a place of need. You speak from a place of knowing. And others feel it, not always consciously, but they feel safer around you, more seen, more softened, because people don't remember your wisdom. They remember your frequency. You become a living permission slip, not by teaching, but by being. To live as the I am is not to transcend being human. It's to be deeply human while rooted in something eternal. You feel grief fully. You rage clearly. You ache but without collapse. You don't bypass pain. You hold it in presence. You don't escape the body. You honor it as your first altar. You don't reject the ego. You teach it how to serve the soul. That is mastery, not the absence of humanity, but its sacred integration. Your life becomes the temple. Your energy becomes the prayer. Your being becomes the message. You live not to fix the world, but to embody what's real inside you. And through that, you begin to ripple. You were not sent here to convince anyone. You were sent here to become a living signal, a resonance, a reminder, a frequency that says, "Come home. It's safe now." You don't have to preach it. Just live it. Speak your truth softly. Hold your boundaries clearly. Love without strategy. And rest without guilt. That's what living as the I Am looks like. You trust now, not because everything is certain, but because you've met the part of you that doesn't need certainty. You walk with faith not as a concept, but as a felt presence. The next steps don't scare you anymore, because you're not walking alone. You're walking as something ancient. You are not chasing a path. You are the path. And when fear visits again, because it will, you don't panic. You say, a part of me forgot. That's okay. And you return, not in shame, but in softness. Not to start over, but to continue more awake. This is the rhythm now. Forget, remember, resist, realign, collapse, recalibrate, over and over, until it becomes second nature. Until forgetting becomes faster, and remembering becomes who you are. So here at this threshold, I offer you not a conclusion, but a beginning, a return of breath, to truth, to self. The journey doesn't end here. It deepens, because once you live from the I Am, there is no going back, not to people-pleasing, not to fear-driven choices, not to shrinking, only forward, only inward, only homeward. Say this now, I am whole, I am home, I am the remembering and the returning. I am the voice and the silence. I am no longer seeking. I am what I was looking for. Let those words settle. Let them echo through the parts of you that still cling to the old. And then smile, not because everything is figured out, but because now you know you're not alone. Now you know you are infinite awareness in human form. Now you know you are. And that is enough. That has always been enough. That will always be enough. If you felt this remembering in your body, if your soul stirred even slightly, let this journey ripple. And if you like this content, comment below and share where you're from. Send it to someone you love. And don't forget to subscribe. Every day, we offer new videos to feed your soul. Chapter 12, The Shadow as a Guide. Meeting the parts you've hidden. There's a part of you that you've been avoiding. Not because it's evil, not because it's dangerous, but because it's powerful and misunderstood. It's the part of you that holds your grief, your rage, your jealousy, your self-loathing, your unmet needs, your unspoken desires. It is the part that learned somewhere along the way, I'm not allowed to exist in the light. So it hid, not because it was wrong, but because it was unloved. That part is your shadow, and now it's time to meet it. The shadow is not the enemy of light. It is what the light longs to illuminate. You do not become more whole by rejecting what you dislike. You become more whole by welcoming it home, not to indulge it, not to justify it, but to witness it, to listen to it, to remember that every part of you was once created in response to pain. The shadow isn't bad. It's just wounded brilliance. It's the brilliance you dimmed because it was too bright for others. Carl Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That's what the shadow does. It shapes your habits, your projections, your triggers, your reactions. You think you're being logical, but it's the shadow speaking. You think you're choosing clearly, but it's your hidden shame steering the wheel. Until you turn inward, until you look it in the eye, until you say, I see you. Let's talk. Here's what shadow work is not. It's not self-blame. It's not a spiritual performance. It's not a trendy buzzword. It's the bravest form of self-intimacy. It's sitting with the parts of you that were called too much, not enough, dangerous, embarrassing, and saying, you don't have to hide anymore. Because here's the secret. What you've been hiding is often what holds your greatest gifts. Your anger? It's protecting your boundaries. It's your fire. It's sacred energy waiting to be redirected. Your shame? It's covering your unmet need to feel safe in your truth. Your fear? It's your body's signal that something important is waking up. Your desire? It's not shameful. It's divine data. A compass pointing to the places where you're meant to grow. Your sadness? It's sacred mourning for the self you abandoned. When you stop demonizing these parts, you realize they were never the problem. Your silence was. You don't integrate the shadow by controlling it. You integrate it by relating to it, by having conversations like, anger, what are you protecting me from? Shame, who taught you I had to hide? Fear, what would you say if I stopped pushing you away? Desire, what is it you truly want beneath the craving? This is soul dialogue. This is what it means to live as the I am, even when the waters are muddy. To bring light into the places you once disowned. Not by force, but by presence. There will be resistance. Phil will say, this is dangerous. Stay safe. Don't go there. The inner critic will shout, don't feel that. You'll lose control. But the soul will whisper, keep going. There is gold in this dark. Because the shadow holds your lost sovereignty. Your unapologetic voice. Your primal innocence. Your raw truth, your full embodiment. You've been trying to ascend, but real ascension includes a descent into the basement of your being, where the I am doesn't run, but reaches out a hand. Let me offer you a practice. Tonight, before you sleep, sit in stillness. Close your eyes, breathe deep into your belly, then say aloud, I invite the part of me that I've been afraid to meet. Let whatever image, memory, feeling, or word arise without judgment. Let's speak. Write down what it says. Feel what it shows. Stay present, even if it's messy. Then say, you are welcome here. I'm ready to listen. This is not performance. This is prayer. This is not therapy. This is integration. The more you make peace with your shadow, the less it controls you. You stop reacting from old wounds. You stop fearing your own intensity. You stop blaming the world for what you haven't yet faced within. You stop needing to be good and start becoming real. Because you realize you don't have to be perfect to be powerful. You don't have to hide your pain to be worthy. You don't have to pretend you're okay to be holy. You're already all of it. Messy, glorious, human, divine. This is where healing becomes embodiment. Shadow integration doesn't make you fearless. It makes you honest. It doesn't remove pain. It removes the shame around pain. And in that space of honesty, something incredible happens. You become available for joy. Not performative joy. Not borrowed joy. True joy. The kind that only arrives when all of you feels safe to be seen. Even the parts that cry in the dark. Even the parts that want to scream. Even the parts that once said, I'll never be enough. You don't silence them. You hold them. And when you do, they soften. You're not here to be perfect. You are here to be whole. To bring your fear into your faith. Your doubt into your devotion. Your shadow into your sovereignty. To say, I am the light. I am the dark. I am the hands that hold them both. That is what living as the I am truly means. Not shining so brightly that no shadows exist, but being so awake that even your shadows are holy. Chapter 13, The Sacred Body, Embodiment as Divinity. You've spent years trying to get above it, trying to rise beyond flesh, to ascend past hunger, to overcome desire, to detach from pain. You were told the body is base, sinful, temporary. That is a cage, a temptation, a thing to manage, master, or transcend. But here's what was never said. Your body is not your burden. Your body is your temple, and not the kind made of metaphor, the kind made of miracle. You don't need to escape the body to find the divine. You need to enter it more fully. Feel the blood in your fingertips. Feel the breath in your ribs. Feel the pulse that's kept rhythm through every joy and heartbreak. That's not just biology. That's the voice of the I am in physical form. Your breath is not just air. It's presence. Your skin is not just a covering. It's boundary and bridge. Your belly is not shameful. It's a womb of power. Every part of you, bone, blood, tendon, heart, is sacred architecture. To live as the I am is to reclaim the body as a living sanctuary, a place where spirit dwells and dances, a place where pain can speak and joy can sing, a place where the divine takes up residence and says, "This is home." But let's be honest, you've judged your body, you've punished it, you've silenced its signals, you've treated it like a problem to fix or a vehicle to control. You've ignored the tension, you've doubted the desire, you've labeled softness as weakness, you've confused numbness with strength. That's not your fault. You were taught to fear your body by systems that feared power, because the body is where sovereignty begins. Your intuition, it lives in your gut. Your truth, it lives in your chest. Your boundaries, they're not concepts. They are felt viscerally. Your yes and your no are not ideas. They are sensations. When you override your body, you lose the clearest guidance system you have. To return to the I am is to listen again, not just to your thoughts, to your shoulders, to your breath, to your hips, to the ache in your back and the flutter in your stomach. Ask, what are you trying to tell me? What do you need? What have I ignored? The body never lies. It remembers what the mind is too clever to admit. It holds what the heart is too tender to face. And yet, it never betrays you, even when it breaks. It breaks trying to protect you. Here is a sacred reframe. Your body is not an inconvenience on your spiritual path. It is your spiritual path. Without the body, there is no voice to speak truth, no eyes to witness wonder, no hands to hold another in tenderness, no heart to ache with grief and expand with joy. Every mystical experience, it lands through the body. Even transcendence is felt. So how do you return? You move with intention. You eat not to numb, but to nourish. You rest not from exhaustion, but from reverence. You walk not just to arrive, but to inhabit. You don't punish your body to make it spiritual. You honor it because it's already sacred. You stretch when it aches. You breathe when it panics. You hold it like you would a child, firmly, tenderly, consistently. Your body has carried you through everything. Every heartbreak, every rebirth, every threshold you thought you couldn't cross. It's held trauma, yes, but it's also held transcendence. And it's still here, trying, breathing, whispering, I want to be part of your becoming, not forgotten in it. There's a divine intelligence in your cells, a memory older than language, a pulse that echoes with every ancestor who walked before you. When you ignore your body, you ignore the archive of your own evolution. When you return to it, you reclaim the wisdom stored in your bones. Your flesh becomes scripture. Your movement becomes mantra. Your stillness becomes sanctuary. Let this be your practice. When you wake, place your hands on your body and say, I'm listening now. I forgive myself. You are holy. Speak to your thighs, to your belly, to your scars. Not like they're problems, like they're priests, because they are. Pleasure, too, is sacred. Not just sexual pleasure, though that is divine, but the pleasure of warmth, the pleasure of stretch, the pleasure of being fully in yourself without judgment. Pleasure recalibrates trauma. It tells your body, I don't need a brace anymore. It's safe to feel again. Pleasure, in its purest form, is the body saying, I am alive and it is good. Let that be enough. You don't need a perfect body to carry divine light. You already are a light, wearing the shape of this moment's form. Stop waiting to love yourself. Love the you that's breathing now. Love the you that aches, that sags, that shivers, that craves. This isn't weakness. It's aliveness. And aliveness is holy. Say this with me now. I bless this body. I return to this temple. I choose to live here with softness, with strength, with truth. There is no shame in being flesh. There is no failure in being tender. There is no sin in needing rest, touch, movement, tears, voice. You are not here to float above it all. You are here to become one with it all. Heaven was never elsewhere. Heaven is in the cells you've been trying to transcend. You're not a soul inside a body. You are a soul as a body, a soul in motion, a living prayer, a sacred, breathing, pulsing, powerful I am. In form. Chapter 14, The Language of the Heart, Emotional Alchemy. There are things you've felt that you've never spoken, waves that rose in your chest, shook through your ribs, tightened your throat, and slipped back into silence. Not because they weren't real, but because the world told you they weren't welcome. Don't be so sensitive. Calm down. Don't cry over that. Be strong. Get over it. You heard those things. You internalized them, and you began to believe, feeling makes me weak, but it doesn't. Feeling makes you fluent. Emotion is not a liability. It's language. It's signal. It's movement. It's how the soul communicates what the mind cannot name. To feel is not to fall. It's to flow. You weren't meant to master your emotions. You were meant to understand them, to meet them, to partner with them, to let them teach you. Every emotion is sacred. Grief, a love that has nowhere to go. A wave that baptizes you in memory. Anger, a sword that protects your truth when your boundaries are breached. Joy, a recognition of alignment. The soul saying, yes, this is me. Fear, not a stop sign, but a doorway. It says, you're getting close to something real. Anxiety? Often, it's not weakness. It's sensitivity misinterpreted. The body processing energy it doesn't yet understand. These aren't problems. They are portals. To become emotionally intelligent is not to eliminate emotion. It's to alchemize it. To meet every feeling with curiosity instead of shame. To ask, where is this emotion living in my body? What story is it attached to? Is this mine or inherited? What does this feeling need from me to move? You see, emotions don't need to be fixed. They need to be felt, fully, without rush, without bypass. Because what you feel, you free. We spend so much time avoiding feeling that we build entire identities around emotional avoidance. You work too much. You distract yourself. You intellectualize what should be metabolized. But the body keeps the receipt. The emotion stays stored in the nervous system, waiting for a moment safe enough to say, can I be seen now? That's what happens in stillness. That's what happens in intimacy. That's what happens when you finally stop performing. Your feelings return, not to punish you, to reintegrate you. Here's the sacred paradox. The emotions you fear most are often the ones that carry your return. Tears aren't weakness. They're medicine. Sadness isn't regression. It's restoration. Rage isn't destruction. It's data. It tells you where you've been betrayed by others or by yourself. When you stop resisting feeling, you begin healing in real time. The emotion moves. The energy releases. The body breathes. The soul says, thank you for hearing me. Let this be your practice. When a strong emotion arises, Don't ask, how do I get rid of this? Ask, how can I sit with this as a sacred guest? Imagine it entering your inner home. You don't slam the door. You don't hide in the back room. You invite it in. You offer it tea. You say, what do you want to show me? What memory are you carrying? What need is behind your voice? And then you listen. This is emotional alchemy. This is soul fluency. Some of you have been numb for years. You didn't choose it consciously. You chose survival. But numbness isn't emptiness. It's protection. Your system said, it's not safe to feel right now. And that's okay. But now the question is it safe to feel again? Not all at once. Not like a flood, but like a slow thaw. A quiet invitation. A hand on the heart that says, I trust myself to hold what arises. Tears may come. Let them. Rage may surface. Let it. Laughter may arrive in the middle of grief. Let that too, because emotion is not linear. Healing is not logical, and feeling is not weakness. It's witnessing. And when you witness with compassion, you begin to change the way you move through the world. You stop reacting unconsciously. You start responding truthfully. You stop hiding. You start allowing. You may wonder, what does this have to do with the I am? Everything. Because the I am is not above emotion. It is the container for all of it. It is the presence that says, you can cry and still be divine. You can rage and still be radiant. You can doubt and still be anchored in truth. To live as the I am is to live emotionally whole. To stop apologizing for your sensitivity. To stop fearing your inner tides. To stop censoring your heart. You're not too much. You are awake. Say this now. I allow myself to feel. I trust the wisdom of my emotions. Every feeling has a purpose, and I welcome its voice. Say it even if your voice shakes. Say it especially if your voice shakes. Because the heart speaks. When a mind grows silent, and when the heart is heard, everything softens. You do not need to master emotions to be spiritual. You simply need to be honest about them, to name what is here, to let it pass like a wave, to let it transform you gently, wisely, deeply. You don't have to fear the depths. You were made for them, and you're no longer alone there, because now you know how to feel, and to feel is to live, and to live is to remember. I am. Chapter 15, Soul-Led Relationships. Love without losing yourself. Love is not meant to swallow you. It is meant to expand you. But many of us learn love as a transaction, a negotiation of needs, a silent contract that said, I'll be what you need me to be if you promise not to leave. So we became small, or pleasing, or useful, or invisible. We called it love, but it was fear, wearing perfume and speaking in soft tones. Soul-led relationships begin in truth, not need. They begin with two people standing in their own fullness and choosing to walk together, not to complete each other, but to mirror each other's becoming. That kind of love requires depth, presence, and most of all, sovereignty. You cannot bring your soul to someone if you've abandoned it to stay close. You are not made to merge and disappear. You are made to meet another from your center, not your survival pattern, to say, this is who I am, and I offer you my truth, not my performance, and to say that without fear of being too much, but to love from the soul. You must first find your soul. You must return to your own center. Otherwise, you love from your wound, not your wisdom. You project your unmet needs. You chase what was missing. You beg for validation you haven't yet given to yourself. That's not love. That's reenactment. To relate soulfully is to ask, what am I bringing to this connection? Besides longing, am I bringing presence, integrity, boundaries, truth, play? Can I hold space for another's truth without shrinking mine? That's soul-led relating. It's not always romantic, but is always real. Most of us never learn this. We learn to seek ourselves and others. We confused attachment for love. We thought chemistry was compatibility. We believed that being chosen meant being worthy. But the soul knows better. The soul doesn't want possession. It wants resonance. It doesn't ask, "Will you complete me?" It asks, "Can you meet me?" Meeting means seeing, listening, allowing. It means honoring another's path without needing to shape it. It means loving someone enough to let them be different. Soul love is not control. It is co-creation. It is not sameness. It is synergy. And it begins with the question, can I stay true to myself while loving you? If the answer is no, it is not your person, or it is not your moment, because the right connection shouldn't cost you your core. If you have to mute your magic to stay close, you're not in love. You are in survival. Let this be your reminder. You are not responsible for managing another's emotions. You are not obligated to stay where your truth is silenced. You're not required to shrink so someone else can feel big. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to take space. You're allowed to choose you. And if someone leaves when you do, let them go. They were loving your compliance, not your essence. Soul-led relationships require boundaries, not walls, not punishments, but clarity. A boundary says, "This is where I end," and you begin. It says, "I can love you and still choose what's right for me." It says, "My love is not fragile. It can hold truth. This is not cruelty. This is honor. It is sacred. It is spiritual. It is self-respect in motion." And when two sovereign souls meet, not to fix, not to save, not to merge, but to witness, to support, to co-create, that's when love becomes a portal into truth, a mirror into depth, a home that doesn't imprison, but awakens. This kind of love says, "I see you, and I stay, not because I need you, but because I choose you." This love is not based on sameness, but on shared sacredness. It's not defined by roles, but by resonance. It doesn't say, "Who do you want me to be?" It says, "Who are we becoming together?" You may feel afraid of this level of honesty. That's normal. It requires visibility. It requires the end of performance. It requires you to bring your whole self to the table, and it will scare some people away. But those aren't your people. Your people want the real you, not the version you shrink into to be loved. Say this with me now. I no longer abandon myself to earn connection. I bring my soul to every table, and I let that be enough. I love from wholeness, not hunger. I attract only what honors my truth. You're not too much. You're not too sensitive, too intense, too wild, too honest. You're exactly the right depth. For someone who is done playing shallow, your people are looking for your realness, your softness, your sacred fire. You won't find them by pretending. You'll find them by remembering. You do not have to choose between love and self. The most powerful love is the one that honors both. Chapter 16, Quantum Devotion, aligning your field with the future self. There's a version of you that already exists, not in fantasy, not in fiction, but in frequency. A version of you who walks with certainty, breathes with peace, creates from alignment, loves without fear, receives without guilt, stands rooted in the "I am" so deeply. They no longer chase, they attract. You're not becoming that version. You're remembering how to be them. Time, as we've known it, is not linear. It's not a single line you walk forward on. It's a spiral, a dance, a field of infinite moments already in existence. And in that field, your future is now, waiting not to arrive, but to be matched. You don't manifest it by pushing. You manifest it by tuning in. The language of the quantum is frequency. It doesn't respond to your effort. It responds to your vibration. Not what you say you want, but what you are willing to become. If you want peace, You must stop rehearsing chaos. If you want love, you must stop aligning with self-abandonment. If you want to be seen, you must stop hiding behind who you were. You've been told to visualize, to dream, to write goals, to chase them. But here's the real secret. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are in resonance with. This is not spiritual pressure. It's energetic clarity. If the future you desire is freedom, start living in ways that feel free now. Even in small ways. Even in how you breathe. Even in how you speak to yourself in silence. This is quantum devotion. Not praying for what you want, but embodying the truth that it's already yours. Waking each day not as someone hoping, but as someone remembering. I already exist in that reality. Now I align with it, not by force, by frequency. This is not about pretending. It's about tuning. You don't fake your way into the future. You feel your way there. And to feel is to regulate, to stabilize, to attune your nervous system to safety, so your field stops vibrating in survival. Because as long as you're vibrating in desperation, the quantum reads, not ready yet, but when you relax into the moment, into trust, into coherence, you become magnetic. Coherence is a state where your thoughts, heart, and body are aligned. Your desire is no longer a contradiction. You're not asking for abundance while vibrating in lack. You're not asking for love while betraying yourself. You're not saying yes to your vision while saying no to your intuition. You become integrated, and integration changes the field around you. Every time you self-abandon, you drift from your quantum alignment. Every time you choose truth, you tune closer. You're not punished when you're off course. You're simply out of range. The signal doesn't go away, but you must recalibrate your receiver. The receiver is your presence, your belief, your energy. This is not law of attraction light. This is embodied resonance. Say it aloud now. I'm already the one I am becoming. Feel in your bones, in your heart, in your gut, not as performance, as truth made breath. The more you return to this, the more the future collapses into the now, not through magic, through alignment. Quantum devotion isn't about forcing outcomes. It's about becoming someone worthy of receiving what you asked for. Not because the universe is testing you, but because your nervous system must be ready to hold it. You don't get the life you want. You get the life your system believes is safe to receive. So you show up daily. You breathe when it's hard. You regulate when you're spiraling. You speak the truth when it shakes. You stay in coherence when it's easier to collapse. That is devotion. Devotion is not rigidity. It's resonance. It's choosing again and again. I trust what I am becoming. I honor where I've been. And I walk in alignment with what is already true. Let me offer you a quantum practice. Each morning, sit in stillness. Ask, who am I today if I'm aligned with my future self? Breathe into coherence. Feel your breath slow, your heart soften, your body settle. Visualize not the outcome, but the state. What does peace feel like? What does abundance feel like? What does love feel like? Let that state become your frequency. Then walk into your day as if that version is who you are now. This is not pretending. This is quantum remembrance. Stop waiting for the external to change so you can feel better, and the external will begin to shift. Not because you manipulated it, because you aligned with the version of you who no longer needs to chase. You're not behind. You're simply being asked to match your own frequency. That's what the future is waiting for. Say this with me now. I align with the truth of who I already am. I walk in devotion to the version of me that is whole, wise, and ready. I vibrate in coherence. I become the frequency of the life I desire. You don't chase timelines. You collapse them. You don't force breakthroughs. You breathe into readiness. This is the quantum path. This is energetic sovereignty. This is remembering the I am, not as a mantra, but as the field you now inhabit. Chapter 17. Initiations of Silence. When nothing happens, but everything changes. There comes a moment on every sacred path when the fire dims, the vision's quiet, and the world feels still. Not calm, but eerily, unsettlingly still. It is not depression. It is not regression. It is an initiation. You've walked through revelation. You've felt the rising. You've tasted the light. You've remembered your truth. And now, nothing. No insight. No clarity. No sign. Just stillness. You wonder, have I gone backward? Have I lost a thread? Am I doing something wrong? But here's the sacred truth. You're being rewoven beneath awareness. Silence is not a void. It is a threshold. It is the womb space of the soul, where the old dissolves and the new has not yet taken form. It is the pause before rebirth, the breath between stories, the dark before the dawn that's unlike any you've known. This is where the I am tests its roots, not through noise or knowing, but through non-doing. Most people run from this place. They fill it, they flee it, they numb it, because silence, in its rawness, feels like death. But it is not death. It is gestation. You're not lost. You're becoming too large for the life that held you. This is where the mind panics and the soul deepens, where identity unhooks from roles, routines, even desires, and falls back into the ocean of being. You don't need answers here. You need receptivity. You don't need to perform here. You need presence. This is not the time to build. It is the time to be hollowed. So the next truth has space to live in you. You're not being punished by silence. You're being purified. Old belief systems are unraveling. Subtle attachments are being revealed. Control mechanisms are collapsing. You asked to be real. Now the illusion is being stripped. You asked to be free. Now what once made you feel safe is being removed. This is not loss. It is liberation in disguise. Let me offer you something radical. You don't have to know where you're going, to trust where you are. Let that land. You don't need to see the next step, to honor this one. You don't need to feel inspired, to be in devotion. Sometimes the deepest spiritual act is staying, not striving, not fixing, just staying, just breathing, just being. In this space, watch what surfaces. Old fears, unprocessed grief, ancient longings, the ghosts of past identities. Let them come. They're not here to haunt you. They're here to ask, can I finally be felt so I can finally be free? This is the clearing. This is the alchemy. This is what silence reveals. And beneath all of that, stillness, not the absence of sound, but the presence of soul, a quiet so vast that it cradles your becoming, a silence that doesn't just mute, it mends, it reorganizes your field, it recalibrates your nervous system, it reconnects you to a self that doesn't need to prove or produce, a self that is already home. So here's your invitation. Do not rush this phase. Do not try to skip it, because it's uncomfortable. Honor it. Mark it. Let it teach you how to be. When there is nothing to do, let it show you the power of inner stillness in a world addicted to momentum. Let it rewrite your relationship to time, to worth, to identity. Because this silence will become your sovereignty. Say this with me now. I do not need answers to be at peace. I honor this sacred pause. I let stillness refine me. I let the silence rewire me. Even when I do not understand, I trust what is becoming. You will not be here forever. The stillness will break. The new light will come. The voice of your soul will return. Wiser, stronger, clearer, but you will not emerge the same. You will walk with a gravity that cannot be faked. You will speak with a clarity that cannot be taught. You will live with a quiet that makes people listen. because you're no longer seeking silence. You are silence, and from that still center, you will move. Chapter 18. Living Miracles. Choosing Wonder Daily. You've been taught to wait for miracles, to beg for them, to earn them, to look for signs and symbols that tell you it's finally your time. But what if the miracle has been happening all along? What if you've been living inside of it? Too busy to notice? What if wonder isn't rare, but overlooked? The real miracle is not what changes your life in an instant. It's what changes how you see your life forever. It's the shift from control to curiosity, from expectation to appreciation, from rushing to reverence. It's not the lightning bolt. It's the leaf, the breath, the pulse in your wrist, the way sunlight kisses dust in the afternoon. The miracle is this moment, not because it's perfect, but because you are present. Wonder is not naivety. It is the deepest form of intelligence. It's what remains when you've stopped pretending you know how it all works and started realizing the mystery is not a problem to solve, but a place to worship. Children know this, not because they're young, but because they haven't yet forgotten how to see. Wonder recalibrates the nervous system. It slows time. It brings the body back to now. It tells the soul, you are safe. You can soften. Wonder is not just an emotion. It's a choice, a practice, a spiritual muscle you can return to again and again. It's choosing to ask, what is beautiful right now? What am I taking for granted? What is this moment asking me to notice? You don't need a retreat. You need eyes that remember. You don't need to travel far. You need to come home to where you already are. The miracle is in your morning routine, in the sound of a loved one breathing next to you, in the silence between two sentences, in the warmth of your palms when held together in prayer. That is sacred. That is holy. That is a miracle. There is no such thing as a mundane life, only an unwitnessed one. You could live in a palace and be blind. You could walk barefoot through the woods and be rich with awe. The miracle isn't where you are. It's how you see where you are. Try this. The next time you eat slowly. Taste everything. Feel the texture. Notice how your body responds. Don't label it good or bad. Just receive it. That's miracle work. Because the ordinary, when witnessed with reverence, becomes extraordinary. You're not waiting for life to begin. Life is waiting for you to notice it, to stop asking, when will my moment come? And start asking, how much life have I missed while waiting for something else? That's the shift. That's the wonder. That's the I am coming alive in real time. You don't need to earn joy. You need to recognize that it's already here. In the bird song, in the messy room that holds your memories, in the stranger who holds the door, in the smell of rain on asphalt. These are not distractions. They are initiations into presence. Say this with me now. I choose wonder. I choose to witness the sacred in the small. I open my eyes to the miracle of now. I do not need more. I need to see more clearly. Let that land. Let that soften you. Because your world is not lacking magic. Your world is saturated with it. And when you choose wonder daily, you shift the people around you. You become an anchor in chaos. You become a mirror of what's good. You become a presence that slows the room. Not because you're pretending, but because you're actually present. And that's rare. And that's powerful. And that's a kind of miracle the world deeply needs. This is not about ignoring pain. It's about seeing both. The ache and the awe. The longing and the laughter. The grief and the grace. To feel fully and still notice beauty. That's divine strength. You don't have to wait for everything to get better, to start seeing how good it already is. You don't have to postpone joy until the job, the healing, the partner, the peace. You can practice wonder right now, even if it's quiet, even if it's small, because wonder compounds, wonder ripples, and one moment of true presence can change the trajectory of a day, a life, a soul. So slow down, soften, ask again, what am I not seeing? Because I'm moving too fast. Then breathe. Look again. Look not for perfection, but for presence. You'll find the miracle was never missing. You were. Now you're back. And the miracle is smiling through your eyes. Chapter 19, Remembering Together, Collective Awakening and the Frequency of We. You were never meant to awaken alone. The I Am is powerful, yes. It is personal, intimate, sacred, but it is also communal, because your frequency doesn't stop at your skin. It moves, it touches, it resonates, it entrains others, like tuning forks, finding harmony. Your awakening is not yours alone. It is a signal, a broadcast, a reminder to the sleeping hearts nearby that it's safe to stir again. We often think of awakening as a solitary path, a climb to the mountaintop, a vision in silence, a personal revolution, and sometimes it is, but real change ripples. Your healing heals your lineage. Your honesty opens a door for someone else's truth. Your integrity destabilizes old systems built on lies. You don't need to be a leader to shift the world. You just need to be awake in it. This is resonance, not preaching, not fixing, not forcing. Resonance is what happens when your being silently invites others into remembrance. It is frequency activism. It is presence as protest against a culture that thrives on performance and disconnection. You may not feel loud. You may not feel seen. You may feel like your softness is overlooked. But let me remind you, you shift the field simply by holding coherence, by breathing when others brace, by listening when others shout, by speaking truthfully, even when your voice quivers. You don't need to convert. You need to radiate. That's how awakening becomes collective, not through domination, but through devotion. And in that devotion, we begin to remember one another. We remember through eye contact, through shared silence, through story, through the sacred mirror of me too. You say, I thought I was the only one. And someone says, no, I've felt that too. That's how the web strengthens. That's how the we are returns. We are not here to agree on everything. We are here to stay in connection, even when we don't, to build bridges of compassion, even across disagreement, to remember that before belief, before identity, before language, we are beings, living, aching, hoping, seeking beings, who all want the same thing, to be seen, to be safe, to be loved, to matter. Your awakening doesn't require others to be where you are. It only asks that you stay rooted, so others can find their way back through your groundedness. You don't accelerate the collective by speeding up your own growth. You do it by deepening your own embodiment, by anchoring light in places others still fear to go. Say this now, my presence is enough. My coherence is a transmission. I trust that by being fully myself, I help others become themselves too. Let that settle, because you're not here to awaken everyone. You are here to remember your light and let it shine consistently enough that those who are ready can see the path again. Community is not perfection. It is not utopia. It is practice. It is choosing presence when it would be easier to disconnect. It is choosing honesty over comfort. It is choosing repair instead of punishment. You will get it wrong. So will they. But when we meet each other with curiosity instead of contempt, healing happens, not just inside us, but between us. The field between hearts is where new worlds are born. This is the next evolution of awakening, not solo transcendence, but embodied interconnection, not isolated brilliance, but collective radiance. You're not just a light. You are part of the constellation. And when we remember that, everything changes. Try this. Look someone in the eye today for longer than is comfortable. Ask a deeper question than usual. Say something real. Share a piece of your story without polishing it. Listen, not to respond, but to receive. That is collective awakening, not in temples, but in kitchens, on sidewalks, in bedrooms and bus stops and break rooms, in the ordinary spaces where truth meets truth and says, I see you, still, always. This is the revolution. Radical presence, relational integrity, resonant honesty, a world where we stop trying to win, fix, or perform, and start remembering together. Say this again. I am not alone. I am part of something ancient and alive. My presence matters. My remembering ripples. And it does. It already has. Even now, you are changing someone's life simply by being fully in yours. Chapter 20, Returning Again. A love letter to the forgetful self. You forgot again, didn't you? Forgot your light. Forgot your truth. Forgot that you are more than the to-do lists. The self-doubt, the masks, the moods, the mirrors that couldn't reflect you clearly. You forgot that you're not just trying to survive. You are here to remember, to return, to rise softly, slowly, truthfully, to the sacred knowing. I am. That's okay. Forgetting is part of the path. In fact, you cannot truly remember without first forgetting. It's built into the design, the veiling, the descent, the sacred sleep that allows the soul to choose itself again. Not by default, but by devotion. You are not broken when you forget. You are human. And in this lifetime, to be human is to navigate forgetting and remembering, like waves lapping the shore. You drift. You come back. You drift again. And each time you return, you carry something deeper, a new softness, a new strength, a new kind of clarity that cannot be taken, because now it lives inside you. This chapter is not for the part of you that's triumphant. This is for the part that's tired, that wonders if it's all just words, if anything you've learned will stick, if you'll ever stop repeating the same cycles. To that part, I say, you are not failing. You are forming. You are in the sacred spiral, and spirals don't go backward. Even when you revisit old ground, you are not who you were. You're seeing with new eyes, feeling with new skin, moving with new gravity. This is a love letter to your forgetful self. To the you who numbs, distracts, shuts down. The you who overthinks, overgives, overperforms. The you who says, I'll never get it right. Let that version rest. Hold them gently. Whisper, you're safe now. You can soften. You can come home again. Coming home doesn't require a grand return. It begins with a breath. Right here, right now, in this exact state of being. You don't need to fix your mood. You don't need to force a smile. You don't need to reach enlightenment by morning. You only need to pause, to be with what is, to listen again, to say, I remember, and even if I forget again, I will return. The I am is not something you achieve. It is the truth you always come back to. Like gravity, like breath, like love that doesn't need a reason. You are it, even when you feel lost, even when you question it all, even when your faith flickers to a whisper. Especially then, this path is not linear. It is not a checklist. It is an unfolding, a deepening, a cycle of forgetting and returning. That humbles you, softens you, and eventually reveals. You were never lost, just asleep to your light. You are not the voice in your head. You are the one who hears it. You are not your fear. You are the one who holds it. You are not your roles, wounds, titles, or doubts. You are what remains when everything else falls away. Still, whole, unchanging. And so you return again and again. Sometimes with tears, sometimes with silence, sometimes with laughter, but always with love. Because this remembering is not about perfection. It's about presence. about meeting yourself again, with less judgment and more grace. About saying, I forgot, but I didn't fail. You may wonder how long it will take. But the question is not when. The question is, how often am I willing to come back without punishment? Because your freedom isn't in never falling. Your freedom is in the gentleness with which you rise. Say this with me now. I remember who I am. Even when I forget, I know the way back. I meet myself with love. I walk in grace. I am whole. I am home. I am. Let that echo through you. Let it settle deeper than words. Let it become the rhythm of your return. The world will keep trying to make you forget. It will praise the mask, reward the hustle, sell you the lie that you must earn your worth. But every time you pause, every time you breathe, every time you choose presence over performance, you awaken. And every awakening makes it easier for someone else to remember, too. So return, again and again and again, not because you failed, but because this is the rhythm of soul. This is the way we walk each other home, not in straight lines, but in spirals of grace. This is the invitation. This is the completion. This is the beginning again. You are not behind. You are not broken. You're not too late. You are here. You're light. You are love, remembering itself in form. You are the I am, returning. If you loved this journey, please leave a comment below telling us where you're from. Share this with someone you love, and subscribe to the channel. Every day we post new videos to feed your soul. Thank you for walking this path. You are never alone.